It's been recognised by most of us for over a decade that the EU needed to act to strengthen the rights of suspects and defendants throughout the Union and to give safeguards necessary to ensure fair trials. This is in the context of much tighter cooperation on policing and prosecution, the introduction of the European arrest warrant, and the fact that many EU citizens take advantage of free movement rights and may have a brush with the law in an unfamiliar environment. There was an attempt at a comprehensive measure on so-called procedural guarantees, one that MEPs strongly supported. But that ran up against a brick wall in the Council in 2007. I was delighted that last year the European Commission, I'm delighted to see Vice President Reding here for this debate, the European Commission, supported by the Swedish Presidency, revived the matter in the form of a roadmap of half a dozen individual measures, and this is the first to see the light of day. And this directive says that if you become a suspect or you're arrested, questioned or put on trial and you don't understand the language of the country, you have a right to interpretation and translation under certain conditions for police questioning, hearings, meetings with your lawyer and so on. Broadly, you have to be put in the same position as a local. Now, the basis of cooperation between Member States in criminal justice is mutual recognition, the almost automatic recognition of the decisions of courts in other EU countries based on mutual trust. But it is not sensible just to assume that that trust exists. It has to be earned through a full respect by all EU countries of certain standards of justice and fair trial. All of us in this debate have probably dealt with cases where we don't believe someone got a fair trial. I've definitely dealt with the case of Gary Mann, returned under a European arrest warrant to Portugal. In the original trial, both the charge and sentence were delivered orally. Mr. Mann didn't know what he was charged with until after he was convicted. The interpreter was a local hairdresser, a friend of the judge's wife. When he was deported back to the UK, he was given a simple letter in English, effectively saying, "Don't come back to Portugal for 2 years." Yet years later, a European arrest warrant was issued to summon him back to serve sentence. And lack of a proper and professional language support has also figured as one of the defects in a case I'm dealing with in Greece of Andrew Symeou. So the aim of this measure is not only to make sure that Member States are implementing the European Convention in Article 6, but also to further develop its minimum standards. Because as the roadmap last November said, there's room for further action on the part of the EU to ensure full implementation in respect of Convention standards, and where appropriate, to ensure consistent application of those standards and to raise them. I believe the Parliament used well its newly acquired Lisbon Treaty powers of joint responsibility for legislation. We fought hard, with a lot of help from Vice President Reding, to whom I paid tribute, and her officials, to raise standards on certain key points, including interpretation of communications between the suspect and the lawyer in all phases of the proceedings, the suspect to have the right to challenge a decision that there's no need for interpretation or translation, and also to the right to complain on quality. We secured the right to limit recourse to partial translation, so all essential material must be translated and oral exceptions be an exception, and that the suspect should not be allowed to waive the right to translation without prior advice. Those are just some of the key ones. To sum up, I believe strongly in the European arrest warrant, but we need the roadmap programme to strengthen citizens' rights and make it work better. Strengthening safeguards and defence rights is not at all about being soft on crime. It's about being tough on crime. Good, efficient justice through high-quality decisions means catching more criminals. And cutting corners on costs is not best value, since if you get a poor court decision or bad police practice, then people are going to appeal. Cheap justice is no justice. I therefore commend this directive to you. I thank the Spanish presidency, with whom we had a good process of negotiation, as well, as I said, with the Commission, and I will deal in my summing up with the plenary amendments being tabled. Thank you very much.